Hello, you lovely lot. Sorry, I'm not trying to look conspicuous. It's just it's very loud around here, and I wanted to make this video. Having just finished my pregnancy yoga class at About Balance in Brighton, which I teach on Thursdays, 1:15 to 2:30. I actually just had a woman explain to me the conversation, in fact, argument she had with her male doctor last week when, because she has had quite a high-risk pregnancy, up until now they've kind of been saying to her that she's going to need to have an induction 40 weeks if she hasn't gone into labour, which is standard if you've got gestational diabetes. These are the standard protocols that are put on you as though you don't have a choice. But this woman does not want to go through induction. She actually would rather have a caesarean if she doesn't go into labour naturally at the time that they deem safe. And basically she had a male doctor saying to her that it's much better, in fact no, he's not going to allow her to have a caesarean. She must choose to have an induction first, and then if it goes to caesarean, that's fine. Now, I don't know if you know me very well, but I've been in the world of birth for a very long time, and when I hear things like this, my blood boils. Why? Who the fuck is a male doctor to tell a woman, in fact, who is any doctor or any birth professional to tell a woman how she is going to give birth? That is an absolute, it's just unacceptable. That's a violation of human rights. In the end, we all need to be given the facts to make our own informed decisions, and we need to remember that data is very easily skewed. Now, here's the deal. I'm not pro-caesarean as the answer to everything, and if you know me, you'll know that I am a big advocate of natural birth, but there are times when a natural birth isn't going to happen. And to force a woman through the induction process, because statistically it looks better to give birth vaginally, and it seems that women do better through vaginal births than they do through caesareans, is something that does not mean that we shouldn't be able to choose for ourselves, being given all of the facts. So here's the thing, is that induction can work well if a baby's head is an optimal position for the mother's pelvis, and mum can move around, and she can work with the doctor to use positive intervention methods to support the baby to come out easily. But there are plenty of risk factors, and when you have had an assisted delivery through forceps, ventouse, that didn't lead to caesarean but potentially led to you having some kind of pelvic floor damage, or having, stitches, third-degree tears, second-degree tears, fistulas, issues that down there go on for a very long time. It is absolutely not okay for someone who is never going to go through the experience of giving birth to say to you that it is better to go through that than to have a caesarean. Yes, there are risk factors involved in having a caesarean. It is major abdominal surgery, but there are risk factors in an induction as well, both for the mother and for the baby. And I think it is very important that women recognise when they are talking about their birth choices with the health professionals that are taking care of them, that they understand that the information they're being given is advice. It is not something they have to actually follow. And we are lucky, we're still part of Europe, which means that we are part of the laws that govern human rights in Europe, and that means that a woman has a right to give birth wherever she chooses to and however she chooses to within the European Union. So it is really important we advocate that right, and we remember that we can stand up to these supposed authority figures that tell us how we should be actually giving birth. Having spent a lot of time working with women postnatally to get over their perceived birth trauma, which is really when a choice has been taken out of your control and you feel a sense of violation because you don't know why things happened the way they did, you didn't feel you were well enough informed. It's something that's highly preventable, and I don't think enough information is being given to women about routine induction, about the fact that a sweep on its own can determine whether the head is low down, whether the cervix is ready, and if those two factors haven't already been accounted for, going into an induction without bringing the baby further down and giving time for the cervix to ripen really doesn't make sense. Why would a placenta stop functioning properly if the cervix hasn't ripened yet? We're not trusting in our bodies enough. We're looking at statistics in a very skewed way, and we are basing our choices on guidelines that are out of date, because by the time you make a guideline, it is out of date. There is new research all the time being brought forward, and if you ever want to know about that research, I highly suggest you check in with the Birthlight Conference. There's a yearly conference that Dr. Francoise Friedman, who's one of my mentors and is amazing, has taught me so much about birth, runs every year in Cambridge. You can go on to birthlight.com. Anybody can go to this conference, and you will get the latest research kind of being presented to you. And this is new research. This will inform you and give you the confidence to be able to speak up and to say, actually, I don't think that's going to work for me. Now, what was amazing about this woman is she basically said, look, I'm not going to have an induction. I don't want to have an induction, and you have absolutely no right to tell me that I must have an induction. But the way that he spoke to her was firstly insisting that she has one over a caesarean and that she doesn't have the choice to have a caesarean. And I know this goes on in Greece as well. The way doctors speak to women in Greece, where I teach a lot, it basically implies that you have no choice and you must do this. We are lied to, we are given all sorts of flimsy excuses. And I'm not saying that this is something that's going on across the board, and I don't want to offend obstetricians, male or female, because there can be some amazing work done to heal birth when you have a very sensitive and honouring male doctor respecting you and giving you your power back by helping you to make the informed choices that you want to make. That can be so healing, just like a male midwife can be so healing. And in the same way, a woman, a female midwife, a female obstetrician can either help a woman to be empowered in her choices or to feel robbed of her power. But I was so pleased to see this woman stand up to him and basically say, I know about caesareans, I know about induction, I've read really deeply into both, and I am prepared to have a caesarean if I don't go into labour naturally by this date, and I want a caesarean booked. And in the end, the doctor backed down, and he said something along the lines of, you know, in this country, we recognise induction to be better than caesarean birth, implying that where she's from, you know, has different ideas. And again, it's just bollocks, isn't it? That's just an abuse of power. We don't speak to people like that, especially women who are pregnant. Every week they come to me after they've been to their doctor or their midwife with another thing to worry about, because it's a pathological style of care. No one's looking at this woman going, wow, you look fantastic. What are you doing? You know, how are you feeling? How can we help you feel better? It's like, oh, your urine says this, your blood says this, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. So it's time we shake that up a little bit. And I would invite any pregnant woman, when she goes in for her appointments, to say, anything you say to me, my baby is hearing too. You are going to be creating a physiological response in my body that is either going to help me to feel safe or to make me feel more frightened of this process. And I want you to keep that in mind. And when you communicate with me, to also communicate with my baby. Do you understand that? Thank you. So anything you have to say to me, put it positively and give me solutions. Don't talk about the problem, and don't tell me I'm too small, too old, too fat, too this, too whatever. It's not acceptable. So when I come back to the original title of this video, Patriarchy and birth, patriarchy is still very heavily influenced in birth. You know, birth is essentially women's business, and any man who is part of the birthing process, whether a partner, whether a midwife, whether an obstetrician, needs to have absolute reverence for that. If you haven't seen La Belle Verte, it's a beautiful movie. It's a French movie. You can probably find it on YouTube. And in that, you have this kind of stuffy obstetrician that kind of gets an awakening, and you see him kind of go from being the way he was to having utter reverence for the women and basically saying, you know how to give birth, I'm just here to support you with it. Like, how can I help you feel more safe and more comfortable? And I'm just here just in case, but I really don't need to be here. You know what you're doing. And it just totally flipped things around. So I would just implore that any woman who is going through, and actually if you're a man and you're listening to this and your wife is pregnant, or your friend is pregnant, or your sister's pregnant, your girlfriend's pregnant, to remember that we are very, very sensitive. We are very prone to suggestion when we are pregnant, and we should not have to fight our corner to get the birth that we want. Ultimately, the more that we are encouraged to trust our bodies, to make choices where we take responsibility, and if we don't, that's where, you know, some kind of responsibility needs to be taken on our behalf. But that we're constantly supported to actually step forward with this and to know that we can turn things around. And not to allow anybody from any institution, it's not just about doctors, not to allow anybody. I think I'm going to leave it there and go and have my lunch. I welcome all comments. Just remember that a guideline is a guideline, it's not a rule. I'm talking about the nice guidelines. And when you are being told what you should do or what you can do as in your pregnancy and your labour, just remember that no one can tell you what to do. You have the choice to give birth wherever you want to, however you want to. And if that means you're high risk and you want to give birth at home, then it is actually up to the NHS, it's up to the doctors and all of the medicine people to actually support you to have the birth you want, because ultimately wherever you are going to feel most relaxed is where you are going to give birth most easily, wherever you feel most relaxed. And for you that might be a labour ward, for another woman it might be a birth centre, for another woman it might be home. Don't let anybody take that away from you, and don't let anybody speak to you in such a way where you feel you have to do as you're told, because that is patriarchal bullshit. We're not having that anymore. It's not about matriarchy, it's not about patriarchy, it's about us being able to come into a place of respect, respecting ourselves and being respected by others as a result. I'll leave it there. Lots of love. Namaste.